mGTOW monk.
Welcome, mGTOW friends. So today I'm going to talk about something very important, and that is, what is the solution? And while forming groups and a lot of men having been savaged and learned their lessons from the hypergamous nature of women, who seem to be never satisfied in modern feminist culture, I think that mGTOW is the first step. One advantage of having a name is that it provides a point for everyone to begin to coalesce on and recognize each other. And then once we've recognized each other, we can begin to explore ideas. One of the biggest traps is men want families. Men want the whole enchilada. They want to form a domicile, a house, a unit with a loving wife and loving children. Children are a blessing and they're a gift. So one reason you fall into the mGTOW rage period is knowing that women have become so corrupted and the courts have become so feminized that there's no safe way to engage women in long-term productive relationships. Even if you get off without legal and financial risk, which is uncommon, you still suffer the emotional damage, which is quite severe and can lead to your death through suicide. So it is not enough to have a social group or a philosophical group called mGTOW. Now, mGTOW is not a movement, it is simply a recognition of a state and a declaration of a stratagem for survival until things improve. So then the question is, okay, let's get on to the second part. How do things improve? How do we make things better in this crazed time period we're living in? We cannot all simply just get screwed over. That doesn't make any sense. So so let's talk two parts. First, wife strategy. Now, it's quite possible to simply get out of the Western world and go to, say, Thailand or South America and find a country where feminism doesn't exist, and that means you have to find a country that does not have a welfare or social programs. So Thailand is a good example. Guatemala is another. Now, if there are no social programs, then women will not be as likely to divorce because they know they'll have to go back to fending for themselves, and they probably don't have the best career options. So that means poverty. And without raping the men in the state, then women will have a tendency to stay loyal with a properly strong pimp hand, of course. Now, one of the things to realize about Thailand is that most marriages there are never registered with the state. So if you can maintain your own visa, which is not that hard to do, although it's getting harder, at worst case it means flying to another country every 3 months, a nearby island, for a little jaunt. But even multiples of that, they're cracking down. Then you can do the educational visa route for a year or 2 years. One of the best is the volunteering visa, which you can just have ongoing and then go in a day a week and help at an orphanage or help teach English with some charitable church organization. And that's a pretty good one to get onto. So visas are all possible. So you don't need the woman for your visa. And then, of course, if you're 50 years or older in Thailand and you can show, I believe it's about $1,000 a month income, then you don't need anyone else for your visa indefinitely. That's just Thailand. Other countries are different. Now, so one of the things you can do is you can actually have a beautiful ceremony with all the families involved, give a ring, and have the whole thing, but not register the marriage with the state government, which is very important because now that means she has less rights to make any claims against you. And the only caution here is definitely do not share property or share business with this person formally in any way whatsoever. Because in Thailand, the woman basically gets everything. So there are some cautions to talk through with a lawyer, but that's one possibility. Now let's go on to the bigger point, which is children. Because a lot of men are ready to ditch the whole wife thing altogether. They want their privacy, they want their personal space, and they're happy to either be a monk, go monks, or to simply have short-term relationships. I won't say the P and D. Now, how do you get children? I think that economically right now, things are very ripe to set up a surrogate service for surrogate women. And what this would entail, let's say you do it in Thailand, you simply find women of good stock. You might also try Buenos Aires, Argentina, because they have European women who also are not so first world. There are other places where you can get different stocks of women. And then what you do is you have the women never learn the man's country of origin. That's very important. They can have his, and also shield him from his real name as much as possible. And then basically he can come, and then when the woman hits her fertility day, the two mate, and the man tries to impregnate her and stays for, say, a month, and there might be 3 women that are all candidates, and then we'll see how many of them get pregnant. And if nothing is successful after 30 days, then the man might stay another 30 days. So you don't need to have a fancy in vitro fertilization with cryotubes and frozen sperm. I think that's actually much worse because anytime you freeze a gamete, it's going to cause some damage. So for the better health of the child, it's best just to have the woman be the actual mother. Now, you're probably thinking, well, but what if she makes a claim? What if this? What if that? Well, first of all, you set up a contract that says that if she ever does make such a claim, she has to return her earnings, and she will get paid between $10,000 and $15,000, maybe even $20,000 for the service. Clearly, she doesn't want to give that back, so she's not going to make a claim. The other thing is that you'll have a real birth certificate issued with the father's name on it, and then take that to the, say, the U.S. Embassy, file for Social Security number, or passport, and formal citizenship recognition for the child, so that there won't be any issues bringing them back. The other part of the service, which I think is really interesting, is that you can have the same person raise, or probably it's best to have a different person, maybe a small nursery, raise the children from infant to, well, probably 1 year for travel, and maybe even 2 years old for an additional fee, so that essentially the man can get the child past the poopy diaper stage, or almost, and much more grown up and viable, and then they've been guaranteed a healthy outcome. And I'm sure a lot of men would pay quite a bit for this, and then just get back to work and come back in 2 years and take their grown child home and have a wonderful way of reproducing with their own natural genetics, which is much better than adoption. So in this case, you might have half Asian child, but I think those mixed breeds can be quite beautiful. And if that is not something they want, like I say, there are other enclaves of European blood. There's even an enclave of European blood tribe in Turkmenistan or someplace like Uzbekistan or somewhere where they have blue eyes and Europeanic features. So everything is possible. It can be done on such a small scale that the home countries would never really crack down on it. And obviously this isn't a solution to repopulate, but it is a solution to provide, say, 1,000 mGTOW men a year with children. I think eventually the next thing to do is to have the MRA groups fight the surrogacy laws in the home countries so that this can be done much better. I actually think there's an advantage to doing it outside of the country because I think there's less likelihood that a woman would have the financial means to track down the country and find the parent and try to find the child and reclaim it. So it's also important, I think, to take the infant right after birth, maybe after just a week of breastfeeding, so that they get some of the colostrum and other anti-immunity properties. But then after just a short period, take the child and move it to a unknown location that the mother cannot easily get to. Just in case, there's always the emotional depression and change of heart, and obviously get the mothers on antidepressant pills and happy pills and lots of money, which will certainly help to cheer them up. And the money would probably be paid out, with a small stipend to start, and then another chunk after the insemination, the physical insemination, and then it would be predicated upon having a successful live birth, and they would get so much if there was a complication during birth, they would get a smaller amount, and then if the child actually lives to the required age for delivery, they would get another amount, and then the surrogates would get the discounted prices if something wrong happened, and then have to pay full price upon delivery. Or before the whole process begins, of course, but they wouldn't get any refunds in the event of successful delivery. So this all seems quite possible, and certainly there's a lot of money to be made in this. Now, normally it could work for infertile couples as well. No need to discriminate. And services would be advertised in the home country in various very targeted places. mGTOW community mainly being one. And the other thing is mGTOWs generally are successful alphas with the good incomes. And if you had to cover, say, 30 grand to have a child, but you were able to pay that over the course of 2 years. See, this is the advantage of the 2-year pickup. Then it's only $15,000 a year, or just a little over. It's like a car payment. It's not that bad, or maybe actually you could get it financed over 4 years, so it's only about $500 a month. It's not too bad, really. And so really anyone with a standard white-collarish job can afford the surrogate service. And then once you get your first one, well, then just jump in and get another one. Usually you want 2 kids at least. So the big advantage of this is that now you're taking some of the most intelligent, most creative parts of the gene pool and allowing them to reproduce. Whereas right now our current system is terribly dysgenic and is reproducing the worst, terrible, violent, stupid, criminal, lazy, worthless parts of society in mass numbers. And this is going to utterly destroy the nation. So there has to be an alternative. So first, like I say, you can consider the non-registered marriage in alternate countries, but you can never return to the Western country. So that's not an option for everyone. But it is an option for many people, especially those that are older, nearing retirement. It's a very good option. You don't have to spend your last days alone. There's no reason to. And you don't have to go to a working girl. That's a nice word for it. One thing I will say is to be very careful with the working girls in Thailand, because if you get one that is very new to the service, they've most likely just left their farm, rural village, bored out of their minds, and they're just trying to have some fun. And if they've just started, they probably haven't maybe been with nobody, because a lot of them sort of, they're in the backgrounds watching. They're not going to be the ones that come up to you. They're going to be the shy ones, the ones you have to go and target, and they'll look younger. And also, they won't have tattoos. So these are all, because they won't have had the money to get tattoos. So these are all things you can look out for. And that's actually a very good first question to ask. Do you have a tattoo? They say, yes, I have many. It's like, okay, next. Every tattoo is equal to one venereal disease. So just keep that in mind. But you can find these, and then you can fall in love with them. They're sweet girls. They're very sweet girls. But the problem is, if they've made the decision to sell their body, it's just so hard to trust them. It's so hard to make that work, because they don't have the sense of respecting their body. As soon as you have a fight, they may go straight back to a bar and earn money again, even if it's not even a full breakup. And being with other men means nothing to them. So you have to shoot for a regular girl and stay away from the bar girls, even though they are very sweet and loving and will seem just like the greatest girlfriend. They won't seem like working girls at all in Thailand. All right, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Is there a way out of this madness? Who's got the capital to set up the first surrogacy business in Thailand? And the great thing is you can recruit the girls, you can test them out yourself, and there's a lot of money to be made in this. If you can get, $15,000 profit from every one, and you do 100 a year, well, you do the math. All right, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of how we can escape this crazy state that we're in just by virtue of the time we were born. And if you like the mGTOW Monk show, please hit the thumbs up button. It really means a lot. Subscribe and hit the notify bell so you'll find out when the next video hits. I'm not quite at daily videos yet, but I'm working on it. And then, of course, soon I'll try to have a Patreon link up, so look for that in the description as well. Kick me a couple bucks a month. I'd really appreciate it. I'm retired. This is my only income, and it would really mean a lot. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep up the mGTOW spirit, and God bless.